Hello and welcome to the Game Football Podcast from The Times. The Premier League is back and there's so much to discuss from the opening weekend. Sunderland's return to the top flight got off to a brilliant and noisy start at the Stadium of Light. Does their win against West Ham and Brentford's defeat at Nottingham Forest mean that the Premier League isn't a closed shop after all? We'll also discuss wins for Liverpool, Manchester City, Tottenham and Arsenal, draws at Chelsea and Brighton, and hear about some grumbles of Newcastle fans. Apparently they're upset about some bloke called Isaac. This was a bit odd, I've never heard of him. I'm Tom Clark, and joining me today to discuss and dissect all of that, we have the senior sports writer and Sunday Times columnist Alison Rudd, the reporter and tactics analyst Hamza Khalik Lunat, and the former footballer turned journalist Gregor Robertson is here as usual. Team, we're back! The Premier League's back. Just how excited are you? Out of 10.
Gregor's got a big grin because you didn't do one of those jokes about the former footballer who
No. He misses them really. Rumour has it he's got them all written on his fridge as a little kind of memento as his glorious playing
But you
days.
missed a trick, because you could have described him as the former footballer who now loves the tiger who came to tea.
Ah, yes. We managed to work the Tiger who came to tea back in to the show, despite you two rambling on about it before we started recording. Anyway, let's head north. Just as I like to always do, let's head north to Sunderland and a jump-in Stadium of Light where Regis Lebris's team picked up a fantastic 3-0 win against West Ham. Martin Hardy was there for the Sunday Times and he sent me a little clip with a few thoughts. This is what he had to say.
The first half has that excitement and the energy of a 46,000 Stadium of Light crowd on an opening day of a season for the first time in the top division since 2017. Sunderland found that first period a little bit difficult, but the thing that may offer as much hope to Sunderland fans as anything else is the fact that Regis Lebris is a very, very pragmatic coach. So there's none of the idealism of Russell Martin or Vincent Kompany. We want to play a certain way. Lebris wants to win games of football or draw games of football and accumulate enough points to stay in the division. To that end, there will be periods of games which happen in the first half where Sunderland are very, very content to sit deep at home on a sunny day with everybody bursting with energy and allow West Ham to have control of the ball for certain periods on the understanding that at some point they believe they will fashion a chance. And that is exactly what happened in the second half against West Ham. A West Ham that, if you were a West Ham fan, by the way, you were thinking, we might be one of the teams that Sunderland are looking to catch, because along with the likes of Brentford and Wolves, West Ham looked very, very stale. They were struggling for ideas, which was emphatically enforced by Graham Potter afterwards in a post-match press conference in which used the word kind of back to basics about 7 times. Sunderland fans didn't care about that. Dan Ballard continues to be this win everything kind of a header and dangerous at set pieces, scores a purer goal than the one he scored against Coventry. Granit Xhaka stands out as being a leader on the pitch. We were told afterwards by Lebris that Granit Xhaka had addressed the celebrating dressing room after the match and said for 30 seconds, be calm, be humble. This is just the start. We have to. The togetherness is so important. Fully aware that there are more difficult days ahead. They now have 3 points. Their next game is Burnley away on Saturday. If they win that game and suddenly for a newly promoted team to have 6 points after 2 games will show you why right now Sunderland fans, if you ever bump into them, are walking around with a smile on their face.
Martin Hardy there, extolling the virtues of Sunderland being back in the Premier League. We're back. They are back. Gregor, we talked about the Stadium of Light being jumping when the team are good. This was a great example of that. And we talked about them on the EFL show last season, about maybe them being a bit of an unknown quantity this season. But my God, that was good gear, wasn't it?
It certainly was, yeah. And they're even more unknown now because of the number of signings.
Yeah.
Up to 12 now.
Couldn't believe it.
They're going to blow Nottingham Forest's kind of huge splurge in 2022 out of the water, I think, by the end of the window. Already up to about 130 million. You kind of wonder, like, how can they do this? But it's the kind of same thing. They were starting from such a low base. I think the squad in the playoff final was worth like 10 million. Full of kids. Players are signed for like 1 or 2 million from all across Europe. They're a very clearly defined model. Now they've just turbocharged it for the Premier League. And they've been quite kind of cleverly run, actually, in the last few years, although it's been quite frugal and they've had the issues we've spoken about, like the decision to get rid of Tony Mowbray, things like that.
Yeah.
Michael Bealefield experiment. They've got more right than wrong. So that should give Sunderland fans some confidence that a lot of the signings will be a success. And like someone like Simon Adingra, I think, is an absolute no-brainer.
Yeah.
I think he was a star for Brighton a lot of the time when he came on, and the kind of short periods where he got a run in the team. Mayenda looks like he's got the pace and sort of tenacity as well as the clinical edge.
But he was playing out wide, wasn't he, in the Championship last season? So the idea of him playing in that central role is a little bit different, but shows that Lebris is not just like, well, this is the team. Because, I mean, as you say, but just to be exact, there's literally about three players in that starting lineup.
3.
Yeah, Hume, Ballard and Mayenda. Is that right?
There's only three that started from last season. That's also slightly, there's slight sadness about that too. All these guys achieved something remarkable, and then they're all either sitting on the bench.
I know. Well, Enzo
watching from the
Lefebvre, who they
stands.
signed from Roma for 20 million, a huge part of their promotion, on the bench. It's incredible.
Yeah.
But it was a deserved win. Some very, very good goals scored, I thought. And as I said earlier, the stadium was well behind the team. It's an absolutely massive cliche to start the first show of the season, but talking about away teams up north with big backings being a tough place to go, Alison. But it could well be true.
Yeah, no, I thought, my first thought when I saw the result was that the big question I think is, could this be as significant as when Brentford came up and they won on their opening match against Arsenal? And in just one match, you thought, all the things we thought they might suffer from, naivety, just the jitters of being in the Premier League, the fact that it's different from the Championship. I know Sunderland have been in the Premier League before, but it's been a gap. And what that did, that first game that Brentford won against Arsenal, was it just meant people stopped all that fearful talk and spoke about all the good things that they could see. And that must be, in the dressing room and in training, it must mean so much to know that all the things you'd been saying in-house came true, and you'd managed, you may or may not have been able to block out the cynicism, but you proved it. And so it's like a complete flip. So not so very long ago, people were just automatically putting Sunderland in they'll probably go straight back down. They just were, and now they're not. And now you've already said, closed shop's broken. It's like, but it can be just one result.
It can be, and we shouldn't get carried away as much as Sunderland fans be
No,
going,
but
get carried away.
No, but I think you can and you should in a sense, because it's setting out that you're not naive.
Last season, none of the promoted teams won until October 5th. The season before that, it was September 30th by the time they beat a team that wasn't a fellow promoted team. So like that, and it's so the confidence that it gives, and the sort of the uplift and the mood and the spirit and the sort of belief is undoubtedly really important. And particularly, they've got a reasonable start. If they get a few more points on the board, then they'll find themselves.
Doesn't it completely change if you're playing? If you've got Sunderland coming up on your fixture list now for the next few weeks, I think it changes the way you prepare for that game.
Yeah,
your opposition.
Yeah, big time. They've got Burnley next weekend away. And then I think they've got Brentford at home. So as you say, Gregor,
they could have
9 points. They're up. They're safe. Sunderland lads, you've done it. You've cracked it.
Hot take, day one.
Absolutely cracked it. A couple of minutes in, and we've already dropped some cliches and given the hot take that Sunderland are safe. Hamza, they have got a very exciting team, though, haven't they? There's a lot of players there. Gregor mentioned Adingra. I think Roofs in goal looks quite special. I love seeing Granit Xhaka back in the Premier League as well. Any thoughts on Sunderland?
I think when you look at what Nottingham Forest did a few years ago, spending lots of money and getting in a better squad and breaching the rules, that's what I would do if I was promoted. Honestly, I'd
take the FFP hit.
I would take the points deduction.
Quickly, they won't break the rules though, because Forest had lost about 95 million in the 3-year cycle to get promoted. Sunderland, it's peanuts, because as I said, their sort of profile, their blueprint, was signing players like 19, 20, 21 for just a couple of million quid here and there. And they've also had the sale of Joe Bellingham, although I think that'll go into the next year's financial things. But I don't think they have that same fear. I think, as I say, they were starting from such a low base, and they've had a kind of reset in League One, not a high wage bill, so it was they were almost kind of ahead of schedule. So I don't think they have those fears. Forest signed 22 players and had lost a lot of money on the way to the Premier League.
What I would do is the key thing is how good is your squad, right? And I think although Sunderland made these additions, it's still probably a squad that is in the bottom 3 of the league, and I don't think you can do too much to sort of change that fact.
What do you mean by that? Do you mean that based on experience, talent? You'd still put them in the bottom 3?
I think so, yeah. And the additions are nice, and what I think it does really well is it sets them up, like Gregor says, for the future. So if they go down and then they return in 2 years' time, they're in a much better position. So I think it's nice business. They scored 2 headers this game, really good headers.
Great headers. Ballard. I'm a Football League fan, so I'm loving it. Stick the ball in the box. Great header. Love that he stayed forward as well.
If you're a Sunderland fan, absolutely enjoy this, but don't bet on it, on them staying up, is all I'm saying.
Hamza.
Hamza pouring cold water on this.
Honest, enjoy it, because I'm not here to ruin your day.
Financially liable at, solid and, staying in the Premier League 2 minutes ago.
You can have 9 points before you can hiccup.
I'll bet against that.
Really?
Yeah.
How much?
30 quid, 50 quid to charity.
Wow, bloody hell. That's a good opening gambit. We're only 10 minutes in. Absolutely loving this show. Absolutely brilliant. Alison, do you take him on? 50 quid for your favourite charity?
Sure.
You going with 9 points, though?
That's a terrible bet, isn't it?
Burnley and Brentford.
Burnley away, Brentford
so they've
at home.
got 3 in the bag.
Yeah.
I think that's 9 points.
So
really?
Yeah.
I'll
shake,
give you.
You're going to have to shake. I know this is a
7 to 9 if you want. I'll give you a range.
It's giving you 7 to 9. I'd take it. I'd take that.
I'm taking it, whatever that means.
Can I have a handshake just to make it official? I know we're on a podcast, but listeners, I can confirm they've shaken hands on that. Excited for a couple of weeks' time to find out which way that bet goes. Sunderland, brilliant, as much as Hamza is quite rightly saying that, it's only one game, let's not get carried away. But West Ham, Alison, we talked about West Ham in our preview shows, our club-by-club previews. A bit of a worry about Graham Potter. And it's interesting you mentioned that Sunderland, everyone put them in their bottom 3s and things like that. I've got a big group of mates on WhatsApp who do the Premier League predictions all at the start of the season. I'm sure we all do this. Do your guesses on what's going to be, and only one of us in the group had the promoted 3 as the bottom 3. Only one of us. A lot of the others either had West Ham or Brentford in there, and this was before the start of the season. So either they've got some very clever mates, or they're just quite bold and fancy winning a bet. But this is not a good look for West Ham.
No. I think I said in the preview show that Graham Potter was one of the managers under most pressure in his opening game, because it was against a newly promoted club and it would be tough at the Stadium of Light. And sure enough, he does nothing to counter those problems. His run of form carrying on from last season is very poor. He finds it very struggling to win games, and his demeanour and language is worrying, I think. I mean, his excuse before was he hadn't had a pre-season. Now he's had a full pre-season to instill his ideas and coaching methods and personality. And after that game, he's talking about the need to go back to basics. The basics aren't being done right. And also, while at the same time also sounding slightly deluded and saying there were large periods of the game where they played well. I think he struggled to find those periods. And so I think he's now under even more pressure than he was before. And he's had the dreaded vote of confidence from the board, which to have a vote of confidence after your opening game of the season is absolutely
it's
ludicrous.
not an official vote of confidence, but for Karen Brady to have said that on the radio the next day was probably not a help. No.
So it's almost laughing stock territory now.
They just feel like they're drifting. I mean, there was very little new to look at or feel about West Ham. Juice, the left back, almost scored. In fact, Ballard with a great clearance off the line. I think he'll be a good sign, and they needed a
Bowen looked good again, but Ben Bowen always looks good in this West Ham team.
Yeah, it's all built around Bowen.
The thing I don't really get to the Potter point, Alison, is that following, you follow these days not just reports and watch it on telly, you see social media, you see fans, you listen to your friends who are fans. Like anyone, whether I knew them and they were West Ham fans or people seeing them on social media, all saying the same thing. Why has he picked that midfield? We're never going to win with that midfield. And I know fans all think they're cleverer than the manager, but surely it says something when all of your own fans are saying the same thing. I mean, to your point, Alison, about the pre-season, what's gone on? Does he need more signings, or should he change formation, Gregor? What?
What's the alternative? Right? What's the alternative? They've got Edson Alvarez, who has shown flashes of looking like he could cut it in the Premier League, but actually not sure he can. He's not that mobile, and he's a bit of a loose cannon, and he's always getting booked. I'm sure some people would like to see George Earthy when he's fit. He was exciting on loan at Bristol City last season. Just for a long time, West Ham fans have wanted to see some of their academy players who are very good given a chance. Like, so we've got Oliver Scarles as well, who's come through from he's left back, but he's come through and got some game time. So Potter does show that he's willing to do it. But in the midfield issue, they don't have many options. I think they just feel like they're drifting. They've not really made any significant signings, I don't think, in the transfer market. Callum Wilson,
not a great debut from Hermanson in goal. I think with some of those goals conceded. So yes, some worries for West Ham. West Ham fans, get in touch with me, tom.clark@thetimes.co.uk. Obviously, Leeds playing Everton tonight on Monday night, and we'll discuss Burnley later. But we've already broached this theme that maybe the closed shop isn't as it is. Gregor, another team giving hope to the promoted teams. Brentford beaten 3-1 by Nottingham Forest. Was 3-1 the accurate score? What should the score have been based on the game?
5-0.
5-0?
Yeah.
I mean, that's not good for Brentford fans, is it?
It's true. I mean, it could have been more than 3-0 at half-time. And Brentford improved marginally in the second half, but Forest still had the better chances. Gibbs-White had a sort of acrobatic effort that went narrowly over. And then their goal came from a penalty, from a handball. So the first half, they were a shambles. Brentford were a shambles.
How so? Like positionally, tactically, confidence-wise, what we talking?
Everything. They were architects of their own downfall on a number of occasions. The second goal, was it the second goal? The third goal. Third goal. Sepp van der Berg just had the ball at the back, tried to pass into midfield. It was woefully inaccurate, and Elliot Anderson pounced on it. Like, Forest, actually, I should say, played differently too. They played right on the front foot. They pressed high. These are not things that you expect to see from Forest. They are
Nuno
well known for
2.0.
being
Nice.
low, playing on the counter. I think they probably sensed that this is a team that's like in transition, and with a new manager who's never managed a game in his life, let's go for it. And it worked.
Great pass from Anderson as well.
Oh,
what a hit.
First
Imagine
time,
how satisfying that must be to ping a ball like that.
Yeah, first time, perfectly weighted. So Anderson was outstanding. Like, I think England have a hole in midfield, and he should be given the chance to fill it. Like, he's that good. And Gibbs-White, after obviously quite an eventful summer, 60 million bid from Spurs, like Forest, sort of making the sort of a legal argument against that, and then the video with Marinakis that was released where people thought it looked like a hostage video.
But it wasn't, clearly.
It wasn't, yeah, just make that.
Definitely wasn't a hostage video.
Make that point very clearly. All was completely forgotten. He was absolutely dazzling, brilliant, outstanding, like great little pirouette.
So he needs to be in the England team as well.
Well, he's already in the squad, and
Alison,
he's
it's only
an
August
option.
and the Scottish bloke's already starting the England selection
They
dilemma
don't have a hole at number 10.
Not
They have a
even
hole
anywhere
in
near
midfield.
the World Cup, and he's gagging for it. Oh, I would leave Foden out. He can't wait. He's absolutely buzzing.
Anyway, those two are outstanding. Sangari as well behind them. So they completely bossed it in midfield, and as I say, pressed high at the pitch. And Brentford just did not know what to do.
And Forest is the team that only scored one goal over the summer in the.
I know, yeah, yeah. That shows what
Maybe that
pre-season
shows
means.
how bad
One goal in
Brentford
7
are.
games, yeah. So, and they were typically ruthless. And Doy got a debut goal. But back to Brentford.
Any bright sparks at all? Anything that you're like, oh, I can see what they're trying to do there?
Did Sharda look pacey when he came on? He's
Sharda-
not fully match fit, is he?
Sharda was an improvement. Yeah, he said that he's missed a lot of pre-season. Like, well, let's just remind ourselves of the context here. They lost a manager, they lost their captain Norgard, they've lost Mbeumo, who was the top scorer. They're going to lose Wissa, who is their top scorer in the Premier League, like ever.
And the coaching staff.
And four members of the coaching staff. Mikkel Damsgaard, his wife gave birth in the morning of the game, so they missed Mikkel Damsgaard as well. And Shada, who was the next kind of, big thing, the next sort of bright spark for Brentford, has missed half a pre-season and only came on at half time. A lot of problems, but we knew that, and we knew that kind of made the appointment of Keith Andrews especially bold, brave, and this was not a good start for him. Like, I hope he does well, and
Do you
clearly
believe?
they've seen something in him. But this was a very bad start.
Do you believe, Gregor, that there would be out there a manager that could have handled all that list you've just given of potential difficulties? I mean, it's a huge list. It's a huge list.
Yeah, of course, it would have been a challenge for anyone. But it's almost all about, for the same reason we just spoke about Sunderland and the positivity of a good start after being promoted and how that raises sort of expectations and hope. Brentford needed the same thing. They need the same thing still in the first few games. Otherwise, all the kind of pressure and the scrutiny that Andrews was already facing because he's a rookie manager, because he was the set-piece coach last year, because it's like the biggest sort of, I said a thing that was a bit rude to Hams the other day, sort of balls out move by Brentford. it felt that way. It's like, this is us, this is what we do, this is our process. We always hire from within. Who cares what any of you think? They needed a good start, and because otherwise it'll have the opposite effect in the squad.
You've been in his presence a few times. What's he like as a bloke?
Hugely confident. Like
overconfident, do you think?
I don't know. He's just a very confident guy in front of the cameras. He will present brilliantly. He's like from everything I've heard, he's very firm and that exudes the same confidence on the training ground.
And was he still like that after the game though?
Yeah, and the other thing that was interesting is that he used the same phrase as Graham Potter. He said basics is seen as a dirty word nowadays in football, but we lack the basics in this game. So two of the managers who find themselves under pressure after really bad performances, it's almost a way of slightly shifting any sort of responsibility onto the players. What can I do about the basics? That's the kind of feeling you get from that. And he might be right. In fact, he was, because 3 players bumped into each other, gave Chris Wood a chance to score from a set piece. The irony of all ironies. After 5 minutes, what can you do about that? Like Sepp van der Berg's pass, what can he do about that? There's a lot of things he could do nothing about, and probably Potter feels the same. But it's a bad way to start the season to say your players need to get back to basics or weren't doing the basics properly.
What I found, what Greg had just mentioned a minute ago was particularly fascinating, the style thing, right? Because Forest's game last season was built on counter-attacking. They only had a majority possession, and I mean literally more than 50% on 7 occasions last season, and the most that they had was 55%, so it's never like they had 60, 65, 70%. Of those 7 matches, they won twice, and in this match they had 55%. And I think a majority of those 3 of those came in the final month of the season as well. I think against, I've got it here, against Leicester, Brentford and Chelsea, so towards the end of the season. And I think it's so interesting that they're able to shift their style and actually play in such a dominant attacking way. That really speaks well to Nuno and the way that he's been able to adapt.
He asked about it afterwards too, and is this the goal of the season to be kind of exude a bit more control? And he sort of, the way Nuno does, smiles and says that's every coach's ambition. So he's kind of, but I think you read in between the lines, you could say yes, that probably.
But it's great if they can do both, season. Right? You just revert back to what they did last season when they need to.
Absolutely. And he's been quite pointed in the kind of week leading up to the kick-off about like they need more signings, they need more depth out in Europe this season. And before the kick-off, Omari Hutchinson, James McAtee, both
great signings, aren't they?
Presented to the crowd. They've got a striker as well coming in from Rennes, I think. So they've spent 100 million in the space of a few days. So there's no reason. That's, again, big hot takes on the first day, but everyone thinks Forest will fall away now. And there's there's that stat about how the average number of points that teams drop off after, if you're not a Big Six team, after making it into Europe, and it's like 14. It's a lot. Maybe Forest can buck that trend.
But that used to be Brentford's thing, didn't it? Changing tactics depending on who they were facing. And I don't think Frank really got enough credit for how varied Brentford's performances were. But how would you sum up what Brentford were trying to do? What were they?
You could tell what they were trying to do.
You couldn't tell.
They didn't have the opportunity to show what they were trying to do. They didn't keep possession long enough. They weren't able to get out. They weren't able to play through Forest press. There was nothing visible in that first half.
You can understand them being surprised though, because Forest pressed, right? Because the whole thing that you saw last season was Forest being a super counter-attacking team, and where they struggled was when teams said, all right then, you have the ball, you can't counter-attack us, and that's why I mentioned that bit towards the end of the season. So you imagine you do all your prep, you're like, okay, yeah, we're going to have lots of the ball, we're going to see what Forest do. You got your first goal kick, you're like, why are they like jumping high up? And you play the first pass short, and suddenly they're onto you and thinking, all the prep that we did has been thrown out the window because Forest have just unveiled a completely new tactic that no one really expected. Okay, yeah, you prepare for different eventualities, but for Forest to play like that is a surprise. Maybe Brentford were just on the wrong end of a surprise, maybe. But to your point about Anderson as well, that quality for him to really sort of dominate possession and be a tempo setter in midfield. I didn't know he had it until I saw the Under-21 European Championship this summer. And I think he'll have the opportunity to show that skill more and more if Forest play a bit like this more often. But the key thing is, right, just mix it up. Some games you dominate possession, just marginally, right? So just 55%. Other games you drop down to 38 and you kill teams on the counter. Being able to mix it up is hugely valuable.
Yeah, promising signs for Nottingham Forest, some worries for Brentford. Let's look at the other games that took place on Sunday. Chelsea 0, Crystal Palace 0. This game dominated by the reintroduction of a law that I'd literally never heard of. Honestly, no idea. Maybe that's embarrassing for a sports editor to admit who hosts a football podcast. Not a bloody clue when I read this. Anyone else?
No.
Come on. Yeah, you played the game. There you go. That makes me feel better.
We have a qualified referee here, don't
Exactly. Come on, Alison.
Well, when I
Be
refereed,
honest.
it wasn't in the laws. To be fair,
Is it a necessary law?
Oh, it's just ridiculous, isn't it? I'm sorry.
It's a foul.
I'm feeling what? Yeah, the foul, but not the actual thing they got penalised for.
It wasn't.
No, but it's just
it wasn't
it's just a
disallowed
foul.
for the foul.
Yeah, no, I know. That's my point. It's just a foul. Why do they need this law?
Why do they need half the laws? Anyway,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just cut the rule book in half.
Yeah, well, that's what a
Easily.
lot of people were saying, weren't they? That if actually you'd said, it was a foul by Gay, moving people out of the way or whatever, then all right, fine.
No problem.
But then
But the funniest part was that
not funny for Crystal Palace.
they did the VAR review, and then the referee, as they do now, has his little microphone and he tells the crowd the reason for disallowing the goal. And they talk over him. He's giving you the reason. It took them half an hour to work out the real reason why the goal had been disallowed. There's it's like you get a sort of blindness. You know what you know, and you won't hear anything different.
Maybe the fans
they just couldn't hear something that didn't make any sense to them.
Maybe it's going to be an adapted chant this season. We don't know. We don't know what you're doing. Not you don't know what you're doing. We don't know what you're doing.
But they've loaded pressure on to maintain this.
Yeah,
now,
exactly.
because
If you start the opening weekend, we're talking about Sunderland, brilliant win. The referees have now made themselves, you've got to get this weird, obscure law out about where you're standing in the wall.
I mean, it's even worse than the directives that always come out every year about, there's always something new, grappling in the box this year. You go, okay, going to crack down on that, and it's forgotten by, October. They can't forget this. They can't deviate from this now. So good luck, guys.
They can. They just don't do it again.
That's the thing. I think I agree with Hamza there. I don't think they will do it again. And it'll just be this weird quirk which cost Crystal Palace probably a win at Chelsea on the opening day.
Yeah, no, I don't think you can, because other things I've pointed to, like grappling in the box, it's all largely subjective. This is an objective rule. It's like if you're within the distance and it's in a wall, you've got to do it.
How are you measuring a metre, though?
Exactly.
I mean this entirely
please.
seriously, because unless the referee literally, as he did later in the game, marks out a point at which is a metre within the wall, you're then estimating, and then it becomes an estimation either by the referee themselves or the VAR. So then you're going to have slight infringements, which I think generally people will be okay with, right? If let's say you're 10 centimetres within the metre, you go, that's not against the spirit of the rule. If you are like
The spirit of this rule.
you see what I mean, right? Because there's always room for interpretation. It's like the 8-second rule. There was which club was penalised for it? Earlier, it was the team that was trying to. Burnley were penalised for it, right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
There were other goalkeepers that held the ball for slightly longer than 8 seconds, but the idea is not to be super, super stringent on it, right? It's just to speed the game up. If you are taking the mickey, then the referee is going to say, okay, I'm going to give the corner here. And in certain situations, maybe the goalkeeper has the ball, the defenders and an opposition players in front of them, they're holding on to it because they can't release it because of that player. And yeah, it might be 9 seconds, it might be 10, but the idea is to actually just move the game on, not to be super judicious and officious and say, that's 8.1 seconds. Likewise, that's 10 centimetres within the metre. I think
we've really covered everything.
I think they will generally try and be liberal with this.
Fair point, but again, if you're within 10 centimetres of the metre, then why have the rule? What does that matter?
I knew
does that matter?
Because you need some sort of definition to work with. Because it's not literally the lines on the pitch, which are quite clear.
Just
but why
excited
does
for
it matter in
players
the first
shouting.
place? Why is that rule there?
To stop interference with the wall.
Yeah, but if they're not standing right next to them, if they're within a meter, like just inside a meter, how are they interfering with them?
So I think
Vision, they're line the walls, line of sight. What
Players
is the
in
problem?
the wall are going to be shouting, "Ref, law 13, law 13, look at him, law 13."
We're getting into the weeds.
It's
here.
completely
It's ridiculous.
devalued winning a free kick in a promising situation, though.
Yeah. Anyway, also another reminder of football being back, fantasy football being back. Mark Gay on my bench again, another away, 6 points, clean sheet. Honestly, I hate this game so much every single weekend of the season. Last season, Hamza, you doing fantasy football this year?
Yeah.
Good start?
I don't know. Probably.
I don't know.
I
You don't know how many points you got after the opening weekend?
No.
Absolutely.
No, but I have Haaland and I have Salah. So yeah,
I've given up then.
I'm sure I'll do fine.
We're going to be talking about Manchester City and Liverpool in the second half of the show. Let's finish part one talking about Arsenal, Manchester United, and we're going to talk about it for about 30 seconds because it might have been the big game of the weekend, but it was a bit boring. No, I'm joking. Firstly, just on the decisions again, that's a slight link with Chelsea. Are we all right with the Bayern dear, Mr. Defender over here?
Yes.
Yeah, fine. Nothing wrong.
No discussion.
No discussion. Alison?
I would agree with that.
Hamza?
It's quite difficult when you're actually in the air and someone like contests the ball with you because you are in the. It's like in rugby, right? If you're in the air and someone challenges you there, it's a very different challenge that you'll get in rugby. But as in, you are in a semi-vulnerable position. So I sympathise with him. But the flat was still pathetic.
Yeah.
You can't get around that.
Not a great.
That was terrible
Not
by
a great
Bayern.
attempt to come for the ball. But Manchester United, otherwise, Hamza, you were at least impressed with the signs that Ruben Amorim has had some work done with this team over the season and with their man-to-man pressing.
Yeah, they were good. The amount of times I watched them last season, and maybe they won a match, and you go, you're struggling to see what the idea was. Here, I saw the idea. I thought
it's interesting you say that. I saw a Manchester United fan on some kind of forum or something saying, "I'd much rather this, where I can see what they're trying to do, and it looks like progress, and lose 1-0 to a kind of slightly unfortunate goal, than win and not have any idea what we're doing." Like, I'm just
as a
picking up your
precedent for the
point.
season, because then you think that it's more likely that you'll pick up points over the course of the season. They're playing like this, I thought Cunha was good. I thought Mbeumo was good. The way that they pressed was organised. It caused problems for Arsenal. Arsenal struggled to retain possession as they usually did. They tried to go a bit more direct. It really didn't work. That's not to say Manchester United were at a level where you go, that's a top 4, top 5 team. No. But they moved the ball quite well. They had transitions that looked pretty threatening. They didn't always get the shot off in the right way. There was a Cunha chance where he ran through the middle and then was stopped by Saliba because he's fast and strong. And they had Cunha's shot, Mbeumo's shot. Those stuff to like. The way that they pressed was pretty good. So it bodes well. Not so well for Arsenal, but again, we're only looking at 90 minutes of action, so we can't be too sort of...
Hang on, before we get a love in on Amorim, isn't he slightly wasting Brian Mbeumo though, playing him as an inside
I
forward?
I wouldn't have called it a loving, by the way. I'd have just said it was a bit of light positivity.
But I think inside the studio, outside the studio, in the world, there's been a bit of a. Oh, it might be beautiful now at Manchester United.
I just like him because he's got good chat.
It was a reasonable performance. But I do think you'd get a lot more out of Mbeumo if he was playing on the flank, coming in, as he did often for Brentford.
In this system,
Well,
unfortunately.
he does.
What, is he going to play wing back?
Why not?
I will say that I did think it was a bit odd. We're talking about Sunderland and, setting your stall out for the season and messaging and all that kind of stuff. I did think it was a bit weird to land a big signing in Benjamin Sesko and not, start him. Just as a kind of presenteeism type thing. Just as a bit of chest beating. We've got Mbeumo, we've got Cunha, and we've got Sesko. Look, Man United are back, etc., etc. And give Arsenal something to be a bit more worried about, maybe. Anyone agree? No?
Because
Mason
But
Mount
he'll
did
have
all
seen
right,
him in
didn't he?
training and how long they've had him there, and also, Gyökeres was thrown in and he didn't really pull up many trees or complete more than 4 passes.
I'm not convinced by Gyökeres at Arsenal, but I mean that's
I got told off for an Arsenal fan what I said about them last week.
Told off?
Yeah, I got told off.
Oh.
But,
you genuinely look quite upset about that. Was it a good friend of yours?
I listened back and I thought I was absolutely right. I do try and reflect. Honestly, I'll listen back. But I'm not quite sure that Arsenal quite have the balance right yet. They did try and go a bit more direct, as in the transitions was very poor.
That's a big thing about that. We're talking about Nottingham Forest making changes to the system and the style of play. Arsenal, we said in the pre-season show, need more goals, want to score more goals, don't be overly reliant on Bukayo Saka, and they're scoring from a corner again.
Yeah, set piece and then nothing really after that, right? There was the Saka chance right at the end that was blocked, but that just came I wasn't particularly
It was
impressed.
deeply unattractive football, basically.
Right, we'll leave it there then, because I said we were only going to talk about 30 seconds, and we've done about a couple of minutes, but there you go.
Cunha and Mbeumo were big.
They looked good. They looked good.
Cunha in particular. I mean, when he gets the ball,
He's an exciting player, isn't he? Like,
yeah, there was one where he barreled through like 3 players. Then there was one where he's like holding someone off and slipped in Mbeumo and he nearly scored. They look like they will fit. I disagree with Alisson. I think they look like both of those players will fit the system. And
but
that's
behind
something-
Sesko, though.
Yes,
Yeah, there's those two behind Sesko.
Absolutely.
What does that mean for Fernandes?
he's got to play deeper.
And can he?
He can. It would help if he had someone with legs alongside him. That's the gaping hole.
Ugarte came on, and that was really bad.
Yeah.
You hate Agate, don't you?
No, I don't. But he was bad. He was,
Things to work on, but some positives. Manchester United and Arsenal fans, if you got some points you want to make, get in touch with me, tom.clark@thetimes.co.uk. Just make sure you're nice to Hamza. We're going to take a little break. We're going to come back. We've still got loads more to talk about. We'll see you in a sec. Welcome back to the Game Football Podcast from The Times. I'm Tom Clark, and I've got Hamza Khalikluna, Gregor Robertson and Alison Rudd with me. Alison, you were at Villa Park. We were talking about some boring games before the break. Was this a stinker? Should it have been 0-0? Could it have been anything else other than 0-0?
Yeah, it could have been -3, -3.
-3. That bad?
Yeah.
Bad in terms of what the teams offered, or just turgid, or did the red card ruin it?
Bad. Okay, bad as in lots of ways, actually. So, first of all, cracking atmosphere, absolutely superb. And it lulled me into thinking, Villa, they haven't been allowed to spend any money, but they have been working hard under a fantastic manager pre-season, and they're going to go for it. This is going to be amazing. And it's like they forgot how to play football. They overhit. In the first half, I think they overhit every pass, every attacking pass they tried to make. It was odd. It was like they'd all taken some sort of fizzy drink that had something in it they weren't expecting to have in it, and it affected their brains and their arms and their legs. It was just weird.
Rudd analogy
That may have
tick.
been-
We've done it. We've
that may
completed
have
it.
been
I
it.
think.
That may explain
It
it.
was very strange. It was they were much better until they had in the second half until Konsa was sent off. But so that was disappointing. Just how ungainly and couldn't get the passes together. And it was like through, but they'd made through balls assuming they had pace, and they had no pace. So that was weird. Anyway, and then you had the sort of narrative that Newcastle, how would they cope? Is it a distraction having Alexander Isak on strike? He's being fined this week for missing this match. You can't be under contract and refuse to play. It's a pretty standard thing legally, I think, that a club would then fine you for doing that. But that's a huge distraction at a club like Newcastle, who've made it into the Champions League, and their whole summer has been tainted by this, and the fact they've been unable to sign their stated targets, and it's just been awful. So would this mean that the vibe of the team would be slightly lower than it should have been? Would Eddie Howe be bristling with anger? But actually, he did quite a good thing. He turned the negative into a positive. So they gave everything, Newcastle. They were definitely trying. The fans were right behind them. The idea that Isak could be reintegrated, I think, is ludicrous once the fans have started chanting, "You're a greedy bastard," and worse.
That felt like the moment
It's
there's
over.
no coming
It's
back
over.
from it.
Afterwards, Eddie Howe said the door's still open for this to be resolved, and it's
because he's holding it open. Please, Isak, come back. I need you to
and
stay.
it's up to the player. But whilst they've navigated it reasonably well in terms of morale, this saga, I think if Isak was to start to be integrated back, that might create problems. Then we might then see it affect the team and the support and so on. So I think he's caught in a difficult position there.
How did they look playing wise? Bruno, Tonali, Joe Linton. That midfield three.
They played. I would say they played very well. VG.
8 out of 10.
It's still 7 out of 10.
Right.
But of course, and I mean, he could not help himself at the end, Eddie Howe, because there was this wry smile when he said basically what we were missing was a striker, and that's it's like basic Hans Christian Andersen football match. this is what you expect to happen. Your top striker, who's been amazing, he's really good at it, right? He's got all those instincts that a natural striker has, and he's reliable. He's on strike, and you get opportunities, and the players to whom those opportunities fall don't have those natural instinctive striker abilities to put the ball away. So it really, really underlines that either you need to reintegrate Isak or spend a lot of dosh and bring in somebody who can be similar to him.
Not sure who that'd be. They've missed out on basically every striker in Europe going this.
Oh, and I do
summer.
think it's a bit weird, psychologically wise, to keep saying that if they signed Wissa, he wouldn't be a replacement for Isak. It's a bit insulting, actually. Oh, he'd be our second choice striker.
But
That's why we'd want him.
Can he be?
I don't care whether he can or not. If you want him, don't diss him before you've even bid for him.
But
they also need two strikers. They've
Yeah.
said that for a long time.
Yeah, but
because Wilson's left.
I agree. But I don't know. Callum Wilson, really, his impact diminished a great deal as over last season. And to call Wissa, who was Brentford's top scorer in the Premier League, to call him someone who would replace someone who isn't really that missed, I think is insulting to Wissa.
But do you think? I don't think he can
Who should
play
be
as a
much
central
hotter
striker,
property,
can he?
much hotter
really in the
property.
same way? Oh, I think he's a terrific player, but I don't know whether. I think it's more surely in a terms of positional sense, not prestige or.
No, but it's
confidence.
coming across. It's coming across as prestige to me. And if I was Wissa, I'd be thinking, well, I'm better than Callum Wilson.
Could be a busy and interesting couple of weeks. It certainly will be, I'm sure, for Newcastle United before the transfer window closes. Alison, I have the pleasure and honour of deciding which matches you lot go to. And I realised I made a massive error with the opening weekend. I should have sent you to Brighton against Fulham, the Alison Rudd derby. What on earth was I doing? Sending you to Aston Villa instead. Brighton 1, Fulham 1. Rodrigo Muniz getting a 97th minute equaliser. This weekend really did have it all, didn't it? Firstly, most importantly, the most important question of the whole podcast, really. Are we on board with Fulham's away kit?
Love it.
Bright green, absolutely crackers, new badge.
Old badge.
A new old badge, yeah, the classic retro way. It looks a little bit like something you'd have got in the bargain bin at JJB Sports back in the 90s.
Which is why it's amazing.
Which is why it's class. Absolutely, I couldn't agree with you more. Could not agree with you more. I thought Brighton looked quite bright. Alison, I was thinking of your preview shoe when you said Ruto was going to have a good season.
You know, I did feel that I mean, it's you know, on paper, losing João Pedro feels like, oh, you know, Brighton, they're always going out the door, aren't they? They're good players. I genuinely didn't feel that it would create a vacuum at all. And Ruta, you know, will fill that gap, and he will, I think. I mean, I don't think he was perfect, but I think he'll grow in stature. It feels like his, you know, like some players, you feel like they have. So he initially struggled to adapt to the Premier League, and then he had injuries, and now it feels like his time. There are players who you feel like they go through these little patches of readjustment in their career and maybe get an odd injury, and then the stars align. There's a gap in the team. This is your moment. So I hope he takes it.
Brighton need to start seeing games out, though.
Oh,
it was
yes.
a big theme last season, and if they want to aim any higher, they need to cut this out.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about one of the big games on Saturday. Hamza, we're going to talk about Wolves against Manchester City very soon. But before that, Thomas Frank's home Premier League debut against Burnley. 3-0 win for his Tottenham side. Gregor, I'm still quite upset about Ange Postecoglou, I'll be honest. But if Thomas Frank can make Richarlison look good, all is forgiven. Because I don't know whether you remember. Do you remember many, many seasons ago, me, you, was it us three and Hugh Wozencroft, our former presenter, and we argued about which striker would be the best impact that season. I think it was like Gabriel Jesus, Erling Haaland, something. And Richarlison was the fourth one. And being the great sport that I am, I said, I'll make the argument for Richarlison. And my mate still messages me every single time Richarlison does anything mostly bad on a football pitch. So, Thomas Frank, if you can make Richarlison good and shut my mate up, I'll be absolutely delighted. But, Gregor, a good win for Thomas Frank.
Yeah, excellent win, yeah. And look, it will be no mean feat, and it would be a huge boost as well, because, you know, Dominic Solanke, I'd say he was, broadly speaking, successful last season, but
yeah,
they
I
need
thought it was
competition. Good. They need more options up front, particularly when they're in the Champions League. And the volley was a great finish. Great finish. Smart, kind of just to hold back and then just to manipulate his body and get the shot off. Great finish. So yeah, I mean, between this and the Super Cup game, I think there's been a lot to be positive about for
Kudus as well looks like on maybe the signing of the season already. Again, big hot take from the first weekend, and I know 55 million or whatever it was a lot of money, but
just instead of like at West Ham, you felt like he always got the ball kind of on the halfway line, or even just inside his own half, and it's like, go on, mate, and he just runs at them and he charges. He looks a bit like a headless chicken actually, and there's no one really around him. He's getting the ball higher up the pitch now, and he looks like he can be much more impactful. So. Yeah, he's definitely been positive.
And that doesn't bode well for Graham Potter either, does it? I felt he was dissing him a bit in his post-match interview, Kudus, saying, now I can enjoy myself. Like where I was, they weren't making the most of me. But now under Super Thomas Frank, I'm happy.
Someone else wooed by Thomas Frank. Who saw that coming?
Just like, there's just obviously, it's not a surprise, but there's just early signs that Spurs are like more sensible.
Sensible Spurs, boo, boo.
Oh, they are. I mean, like, not boring, but more sensible. Like they still have things like Spence, like is basically playing like a winger a lot of the time. It's you look at their shape, their system, and it's not straightforward. It's not like it's not set in stone. They often shape shifts through the game, and that a lot of that involves the fullbacks play so high up when they're pressing, or one goes up and one tucks in, and then like. The youth of the midfield, Sarr, Gray and Bergvall in that game, like that's. Do we see that being the like midfield three? I can't believe Paulinho won't come in. João Paulinho won't come into.
I'm a
midfield.
huge Paulinho fan, so I'm sure he'll be.
You'd have thought he'd be getting
used
in the
a
team. Burnley, Gregor, obviously a difficult game. They don't quite conform to the trend of the first half of the show where we said the promoted teams are all going to survive. But a 3-0 win, we shouldn't take too much from it. We'll learn a lot more next Saturday when they host Sunderland.
Yeah. I mean, like the whole thing about Burnley is that they came up on the back of such a strong defence. That's still the thing that they're going to have to hope for if they're going to survive this season. That was a great piece with Gary Jacob with Scott Parker in the Times at the weekend. Really like interesting, like revealing interview about Scott Parker, and it's going to be an interesting story about Scott Parker as well. After him and Farke. 3 promotions, but not being able to lay a glove on the Premier League at all.
Not being given the chance to lay a glove on the Premier League for much
that's part of it.
Being sacked quite early often.
Yeah, well, that was the case at Bournemouth, yeah. But I hope he does better this time, and I hope that's the case for Farke as well, because I think it's often sort of diminished or dismissed a little bit. They're managing a team with parachute payments. It's easy. It's not easy to do what they do. The sort of overhaul and the turnover at a club after relegation from the Premier League, and sort of creating a cohesive team, bit of unity after losing every single week, and enduring a miserable season is no mean feat. And he's done it several times. It remains to be seen whether it's just going to be another sort of. Up and down in the cycle for Burnley. Yeah, you mentioned Leeds and Daniel Farke there. They host Everton tonight. Martin Hardy is there. You can read his report on the Times website later. Right, I made you wait long enough, Hamza. Wolves 0, Manchester City 4. Should that have been the result? Could it have been anything different?
Could have been 3-0. So City scored all their shots.
4-0's a bit toppy.
Yeah, City scored all their shots on target, but given they've got Erling Haaland who does that, right? So Sarr maybe could have saved his shot, the third goal. But City were the dominant team. That's not to say Wolves played badly. I think what they did in the first 20 or so, 25 minutes, they tried to limit City quite well. They defended good space. They used long balls in behind into the channels and attacked from those spaces. They got caught out with offsides, but if you're getting caught out with offsides, that's usually either a mark of that team not executing their attacks properly, or the other team catching you out with a good offside trap. And there's also maybe you got a bit lucky, but the offside goal that Wolves scored was well offside, so I'd discount that. Strand Larsen looked quite busy. He had a few shots, actually. Yeah. There's one cut back in the second half, a shot in the first, I think, as well. That he was getting on shots and cutbacks specifically bodes well. I think that if they can get him in those situations, then he'll be okay. So just quickly, before we come back to City then, would you put Wolves in that category of Brentford and West Ham, who are teams that are giving the promoted teams hope in terms of might being pulled into a relegation scrap? Obviously, playing Manchester City is a tough test and tough barometer. To be completely frank, I wouldn't be too hopeful if I was one of the promoted teams. I think Wolves, They've obviously lost Cunha, but their midfield double pivot is still pretty good, right? They've still got Andre and Gomez. They could do with a bit of top end speed, I think, in defence and up top, a direct bit more, just to change the dynamic of the guys they have up front, because they had Bellegarde, Strand Larsen, and Monetzi up top. And they use them quite well, but they profile semi-similarly. You want a bit of variety across the front three,
right,
or at least from the bench to be able to change that up. They did have Fer Lopez that came off the bench, but you couldn't really tell too much. It was 2-0 or 3-0 by then. I think they need a bit of top-end pace, a little bit of cover in midfield, because Gomez and Andre will need a bit of support, and maybe in the defensive line as well. Sarr, I think, is also probably past his best. But
not worried about Wolves.
They might be around that space, but I think fundamentally, with that midfield pivot, you're probably going to be better off than the promoted teams just because of that.
Hamza is not buying into the
He's
changing landscape.
He's not
at
bought
all.
into the theme at all, has he? But it's all right. It's fun. We don't all have to agree.
Let's see how Leeds do tonight.
Yes,
as well.
exactly. That's the big one, as I say. Martin Hardy there for the Times. Hamza, I said I was going to talk about Manchester City, then diverted you onto Wolves. So let's talk about Manchester City. Title contenders, surely, after this performance.
You shouldn't get carried away, but I will. They were sick.
Yeah. There we go.
They were very good.
I knew there was something he was going to get carried away about.
I was so excited to watch City. Often, start of the season, you have questions, but there's very rarely been a team that I've had so many questions about. Not bad questions. It's just, how does this team, arguably the best side of the Premier League era over a sort of a period, how do they react to one of their worst ever seasons? How does the manager, who looked jaded and tired, react to that? The first time ever, it was a trophyless season. Not the first time he's ever had a trophyless season, but the first time he's ever looked like that.
Yep.
And had a trophyless season. How do they cope with losing Kevin De Bruyne, bringing in these new players, Reinders, Shirky? You've still got Marmouche, Nico Gonzalez. How will they still have the same structural problems without Rodri, who's going to return after the international break? How will City play now that Pep has got rid of Juan Molino and brought in Pep Linders, who's known for his out-of-possession ideas? It's super intense counter-pressing and pressing ideas. And we saw some of them. They pressed quite well. They were quite aggressive. They use that intensity to good effect. Like I said, you shouldn't read too much into it, but you also have got to remember City's floor is always going to be around third, because they've got a guy that's going to score 25 goals, irrespective of whether he plays well or the team plays well or poorly, or the team plays well or poorly. He will just score that amount of goals.
Yep.
So then you go, okay, well, they're in that conversation. They're in that sort of space where you're going from, let's say, 79 points to 84, and then you're thinking about, what about if they hit where they should be or beyond that? And you go, yeah, they're probably title challengers. And the structural problem that we saw last season in this match wasn't exposed. What Wolves did instead was attack the spaces outside the fullbacks, and that meant that sometimes the centre-backs would have to go over and cover Aït-Nouri and Rico Lewis, because they're not the biggest guys in the air and the most effective guys in the air, which will open up a bit of space inside. But and Trafford played quite well as well, but there's a question mark about him, not him specifically, but whether they get Donnarumma in, because that will make him the number 2.
Lovely little dinked pass, though, over
Very
the
nice,
press
yeah.
to Reinders,
Straight
and
into
then turn for
Reinders.
the goal. Lovely.
Yeah, and Reinders offers... those turns that he has are such a valuable asset, because if a team is in a low block and you're able to dribble past a player, suddenly it's a domino sort of effect. You dribble past one player, the opposition players that are man marking your teammates then go, oh my God, this guy's got the ball, he's in the middle, I have to close him down. They move towards you. If he runs past you again, he's going straight into the box. If you move towards them, you free up your man, they pass to them, they get the combination, they get inside. Bob was very good as well. And this is a team that still has a few guys that are injured. So Foden wasn't available, Roger wasn't available, Gundogan's working his way back. He's past his best, but still he's a good quality player. I think, Pep just wants to get his squad a bit smaller, but the way that they played just looked very good. So I think they'll be at least at that sort of 84 point.
Did it look like a different... You touched on it a little bit there and mentioned Pep Linders and stuff, but I was fascinated looking at this team when it was selected. I was like, oh, Oscar Bob and Doku, either side of Haaland. That's a bit different when you think of Foden, as you say, not being in the team. Grealish sent out on loan. You've got a bit more of a maybe conventional 4-3-3 type system with 3 midfielders and then pacey guys at either side of a striker who, as you say, is going to score 25 goals. Did it look as simplistic as that?
Well, one of the things that Pep mentioned, both in pre-season and after the match, is we're going to try and use pace more. We're going to be a bit more direct. I think he's shown that he can evolve, and he does evolve, and he's incorporated different ideas into, and that's what keeps him at the top level. When he went to Germany, for example, and he was presented with counter-pressing football, it took him a very short amount of time, but he quickly went, okay, we're going to incorporate those ideas, and we're going to put those and adapt my idea of play and incorporate them. We're not going to change too much, but we're going to bring those in. And I think his experience in the league last season, and more generally in the Premier League, is that you need physicality, you need pace, you need directness, and the ability to mix it at times. Of course, he's always shown some of that. Take the win against Arsenal when he went direct with De Bruyne and Haaland in a 4-4-2. So he's always done bits of it, but I think there's going to be a more concerted effort to focus on honing those skills. And I think the same way we spoke about Gyökeres the other week, I mean, if you play a more direct, open, counter-attacking, pacey game with Haaland, that's what he likes.
Yeah.
So you've been playing a game where he's been getting 30-ish goals, and it's not, the system hasn't been perfectly optimised to him. Now you're moving towards an even more optimised system to him. Maybe not perfect, but
the only thing is they won't have that option in a lot of games.
Yeah, because teams sit back.
I know Wolves, in theory, should be a game where you didn't see, but you actually did see them be able to exploit quite a lot of space quickly. So, yeah, there are moments in games, but they'll come up against teams that they just have to break down in a low block like 70% of the time. And that's always been the challenge of how do you get the best out of De Bruyne. But still, how do you get the best out of Haaland? But still, you look at, just looking at, you kind of forgot how much excitement there was around Oscar Bob before he got injured last season. His season was pretty much a write-off. Like, hugely impressive start for Reinders. As Hamza's saying, just being able to carry the ball through midfield. That is something he's clearly trying to add to the team. And Rico Lewis, kind of persisted with playing Nunes at right back all last season, and Rico Lewis is brilliant. Like, he's so flexible. Like, he can do so many different kind of, he can step into midfield. He can play, as you saw for one of the goals, the cross. He can be the guy who overlaps down the right. He's like full of energy. The Forest were trying to sign him recently, and I think there's no chance they're going to let him go. I think this could be a big season for him, unless they sign another right back. I think he's the guy they should hang their hat on there.
So it was a good advert for doing your business early, wasn't it? Because they really looked like.
They looked like a team.
They looked like a proper team.
They knew what they were doing.
Slightly different, but like you felt like you'd seen it before because they were playing it so well.
Yeah.
There were a number of moments where I really enjoyed the football that I was watching. And I know we get to watch very good football every week, but to see something that's a genuine pleasure always stands out. So there's a few matches that stand out to me last season, a few teams. But watching City on Saturday, I was just very excited. And I think
and the key difference between the start to this season and last season, I feel, with City is this, the smile on the faces of the players. They looked tired this time last year, and like almost like they knew something bad was coming, relatively bad was coming. But this looks like a team that feels energised, cohesive, ready to go. All that.
They might still be tired because of the Club World Cup.
But exactly. But because they did their business early, it feels like we don't. I don't know. It just feels like a completely. Do you remember how really knackered they looked? And they were all great players, but they just looked a bit jaded, and like we weren't sure what would give them that impetus to do it all again. And they didn't quite find it. But they look so refreshed, and the new signings have blended in so well. I think they're definitely contenders this year.
Maybe they'll get ripped apart on the counter next week. Maybe, right? But if they do, there's a good chance they'll come back at you and they'll score 4.
Excellent. Exciting. Man City is going to be 4-4 every game of the season. Talking about them being title contenders, they'll have to wrestle the Premier League title back from the current champions Liverpool, starting the season with a 4-2 win on Friday night against Bournemouth. An absolute cracker. Anfield delivering yet again. I'm going to say I'm disappointed that Mo Salah scored, not just because I didn't put him in my fantasy team, but just because narrative-wise, 3-2 Chiesa would have been much nicer.
Yeah.
Like, just like 4-2, Salah scores a fourth. Like, Mo, jog on, mate. Come on, let the other lad have the limelight. It would have been much nicer.
Do you know what was bonkers about that goal?
Which one?
The fourth one. Liverpool are winning 3-2 in the 94th, 95th.
94th, yeah.
And as Salah gets this ball, he's currently 4-on-1 against the Bournemouth defenders. By the time he takes the shot, Liverpool outnumber Bournemouth in the box 5-4, including the D. Who does this in the 90? No, it's kind of bonkers, and I think in some ways it speaks to Arne Slot's style because he likes to overload defenders in the box and he's hyper attacking. But it also speaks to the emotionality of the match and the emotionality of the occasion that I think Liverpool, and to be fair, this does affect Wolves and Manchester City as well, because they held quite a big sort of tribute to Diogo Jota, and at the end of the match you saw Ruben Dias and Bernardo Silva joining in this lengthy applause where they're singing the song for well beyond full time. You can see that they're quite upset, but I think this emotionality also does play into it, because it felt like for moments in this game Liverpool were just swept away by the emotion. They were just, let's keep attacking, let's try everything we can, let's be as effervescent and energetic as we can. And they lost the control that made them so effective last season, and you see that in that final opportunity. Mind you, Arne Slot also, I think he was interviewed by Jamie Carragher, Gary Neville after the match, and Jamie said something like, are you not concerned by the amount of players that you've got forward? He's like, no, actually, this is the way that we want to play. We just need to do what we did better. Robertson should be slightly a bit more central for the second goal, so we can counter-press the situation better. And Dominic Szoboszlai probably shouldn't try the trick when there's no one behind him. Mind you, for Bournemouth's second goal, you had, again, everyone in the box. You had Endo, who was the nominal number 6 at this point, in the box. You had Curtis Jones, who'd run ahead of him, in the box. You had Szoboszlai on the edge of the box, and he's missed the ball because the cutback is behind him. And usually on TV, you see that situation, you go, okay, yeah, Van Dijk, Konate, number 6. You go, there's no number 6, there's no fullback there either. And suddenly it's a Bournemouth 4-on-2.
Any concerns, Gregor, about that defensive situation?
He was
conceding those 2 goals.
Slot was really interesting actually in that interview, and he kind of pointed out again, Gravenberch is someone who was outstanding for them and really important for them last season, and getting McAllister back up to speed a bit as well will kind of help to solve that. But I think actually we might slightly be easy to overlook as well how much it'll be a change, having changed both fullbacks. And these guys are they're young and they're forward facing. Yeah. If that's for want of a better word, that's what they are built for. They're attacking, buccaneering fullbacks. And then there's the intangibles that you don't have that are missing when you don't have Andy Robertson in the team, like in the biggest games probably. His organisation, his leadership, and just the fact that these guys have played together for so long, like that will have an effect. So I think when you have that and the sort of slight reconfiguration of midfield, in the way that they've got a number 10 as opposed to sort of slightly different formed midfield, and Szoboszlai played that role, but he also is a box-to-box midfielder, really. So I think those two things together are a concern. I think they are a concern for Liverpool. But it's also...
They scored 4, man.
The football
goal and an assist from Ekitike.
Out of your seat stuff.
Yeah.
Like that City match.
Don't need Isaac, do they?
No,
they literally need the minutes. They don't
need Isaac. There you go.
They definitely do, because they don't have the minutes in terms of the front line.
In terms of the squad numbers, you mean?
Yeah, as in, let's say they play...
Are you not on board for a Federico Chiesa Renaissance second season?
I don't. What a lovely bloke! I did think it was going overboard last season with the cult status that he had amongst the fans. I mean, I went to Brighton v Liverpool, and they just sang the Chiesa song throughout the entire 90 minutes.
It's a good chant, though, to be fair.
But I mean, given
but he's a really good player.
His lack of contribution to winning the title, it seemed a bit over the top. But then his cameo on Friday night was amazing. But afterwards, his English is lovely, and he's actually going, oh, is it a thing in England where you say better late than never? Oh, it is.
And his RP
marvellous. He's just lovely. So now I get it. Now I get why he's going to be probably continue to be a cult player.
I mean, he'll almost certainly get shipped off to Saudi Arabia or something, or go on loan to Fiorentina. But in this age of where football teams and players, they change so often, no one gets a chance. The idea that you could have a bit of a crap season and be a cult figure and then actually be good in the second season, that never happens anymore. There's no time. There's no patience for it.
Lovely bloke, but he hasn't played more than 3,000 minutes in a league season since 2018-19.
Here he comes.
And because Liverpool have 3 fewer forwards than they did than last season, and they've only brought in 1, and Verts might cover a bit. They literally, let's say they're 38 matches, 90 minutes each. You're at 3,420 minutes without added time. Adding your Champions League matches, you've already got how many in the group stage? 8. You need to have 4,500, 5,000 minutes, and that's without even thinking about internationals, cup matches, all that sort of stuff, right? Ekatike is not even close to that. So you need the other body there, and it can't be another body because you're trying to win the league. So it has to be someone good.
Why don't they sign Wissa? I don't see.
Sisak is better.
No. But
Fade out, Neil. Fade out, Neil. Fade out, Neil.
He wants to move. Let him. Newcastle going to get good money for him.
I don't know. I don't know if you
deal.
want. Do you want a player who behaves like that? I don't think
He's
do.
on strike. He wants his move.
That is the hot take we've been waiting for.
Bournemouth were good as well.
Liverpool fan does not want Alexander Isak.
Bournemouth were good as well.
Bournemouth were very good.
Very good as well.
Very good. Good little PS from you there.
And no, it's not a PS because Antonio Iraola has lost his 2 starting centre-backs. And they defended.
And his left back.
Yeah, and his left back.
And his keeper.
And his, yes, he's lost 4 of the back 5. Good bit of addition, guys.
Yeah.
But they played very well. Evan Nilsson was good. Semenyo was excellent with his 2 goals, and of course what he had to deal with as well was awful. And I know some people say it shows immense character, but as in sort of. That's by the by, right? As in, yeah, he's done that really well, but one awful thing to do to someone at a football match. I'm glad that the person was ejected, and I'm glad that the club sort of were quite firm in their response. But yeah, Semenyo was very, very good. Alex Scott was brilliant. That's when they actually
See, now
lost
you're
the match.
Excited.
That's when Bournemouth actually lost the match, I think.
Big season for him.
When Alex Scott came off, they lost control of midfield, and I thought he was fantastic.
Yeah.
If he can stay fit, he I think could be regarded as well as Semenyo is, because people see Semenyo and go, that's a player that can play Champions League football, is already of that level. I think Scott, if he can stay fit, will be there as well. So yeah, fantastic game, good signs for Bournemouth.
Just finally, we've skirted over it, but it's also hugely moving, the Jota stuff beforehand, like the tribute and like the weight of his absence.
Yeah.
It's like pretty profound when you just see the team, and he's it's. It would have been a really emotional night for them, I think, for Liverpool, and it's going to be something that's
through the season, right? Because
it's a real unknown for the rest of the season as well. So
in the dressing room, they have his shirt. So for some people, it can be quite motivating to see that all the time. Other people, the way that they deal with grief is very different.
Quite difficult.
And then, irrespective whether the fans will chant the song all the time, so they will constantly be reminded of it in some form. How you process that, we don't know. I think you'll only get some true reflections on this, perhaps 20 or 30 years down the line, where the players are actually able to process grief fully and then unpick it and then verbalise how that affected them. We won't know for a long time how this affects them. And I think there's a really interesting point that Rory Smith made on the Libero podcast a week or 2 ago. He mentioned that people often think about the 89 season where Arsenal won the league at Anfield and just think about that game in isolation. And he says what people forget is that the majority of that squad have been attending funerals for the months leading up to that because of the Hillsborough disaster. So how this thing can affect people, not just, and like I said, it's not just Liverpool, it's not just Wolves, it's the players that have played with him. So it's quite something that has quite a large and profound effect on people outside of Liverpool as well. So that sort of thing we won't be able to know, but it's worth at least, I think, as a few people have written, just being sort of aware of that. I think Paul wrote about that. So yeah, and lots of things to consider.
Absolutely, hugely emotional night at Anfield, but loads of excitement too, as we saw across the weekend. We'll leave it there. Alison Rudd, Hamza Khalik Luna and Gregor Robertson, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you too for listening. Me and Gregor will be back with an EFL show this week, and then we'll be back with the regular show on Thursday. See you then.